Have you ever seen something that felt like an artistic revelation? Because every time I watch Pocoyo, it feels like a masterclass in composition. But here's the problem. Learning composition can be a little bit overwhelming. Even when you watch breakdowns and tutorials, it's very hard to apply what seems very simple. Pocoyo solves that. And in this video, I will show you how it works so well and how you can use what they use when doing the show so you can apply it on your own art. Now, most great compositions require peeling back a lot of layers, like color theory and contrast and framing. But Pocoyo is different. It is brutally intentional and is brilliantly simple. No distractions, just raw visual storytelling. But what do they do that is so good? Well, they rely on three very simple things: negative space, triangles, and the big, medium, small rule. So let's start with negative space. As you can tell, part of Pocoyo's visual identity is that there's a lot of empty space. There's a lot of negative space. Now, the most important aspect of a composition is balance. If you look at this image, most of the elements of this composition are to the left, but the amount of negative space is almost as much as the shape on the scene, balancing themselves out. It also happens here, where the most important aspect of the scene is Pocoyo's eyes and the lollipop. The rest is evenly split between the negative space and the positive space. Even in this shot, as Pocoyo shows up, the camera moves to keep the balance between the negative and the positive space. You can see the same balance here. The amount of positive and negative space is balanced. In fact, this one feels almost like abstract geometric shapes. And this is a pattern that will repeat on this show, and you will see it as we move on. But does this mean that positive and negative space needs to be balanced? Well, no. In fact, most of the art pieces that you ever seen in your life have little to no negative space. What I want to show you is that using negative space to put emphasis on a figure is a good tool for you to have. And it will help you to A, find clear silhouettes for your characters, and B, find interesting shapes in the background. So now that we covered everything that is white in these images, what about the rest? Well, have you ever thought about drawing a scene and having no idea where to place the elements on the scene? Well, the next two items that I'm going to explain will help a lot with solving this problem with composition. So let's talk triangles. Well, triangles have three corners, and it's very easy to balance a composition when you have three elements balancing each other out. I want to start with this image though. Why? Because the triangle here is a bit harder to find than on the other images that I will show you later. Now, a very simple example of a balanced composition is this one. A big piece on one side and a smaller one on the other. But why is this balanced though? Shouldn't the big shape feel heavier? Well, first it depends on where you put that shape. If you move it to the side, it will bring all of its weight with it. Sometimes it is useful to think of your piece of art as if it was being put on a scale. And you need to balance both halves. But the big shape still feels heavier. So why is it balanced? Because our eyes see two shapes, but they flow to three places. 1, 2, 3, forming a triangle. Where's the triangle here? Well, here, of course, but also here. In this scene, you also have three elements to look at, but the duck's beak is turned to the other side to balance the composition. That triangle is way more evident here. Do you think that that drum set placed exactly there is accidental? Do you want to see even more triangles? 1 triangle, 2 triangles, 3 triangles, 4 triangles. You can also use eyesight as one of the lines for a triangle, like here or here. Look at the character placement with the car. This is a very clear triangle. But, what about that cactus over there? This one. Why is that cactus there? Is it a random choice? Listen, the reason why I love this show so much is because nothing is random in it. That cactus is there to balance the scene out, and it is using the third rule that I wanted to talk about. Have you noticed that in every triangle that I showed you before, every element is a different size? If every element of a composition was the same size, it would be balanced, but it would also be super boring. So how does Pocoyo solve this? By adhering to the big, medium, small rule. A good composition creates an interesting balance between big shapes, medium shapes, and small shapes. Often, the triangle I've been mentioning is made by the intersection between big, medium, and small shapes. Big shape on one side, medium and small on the other side, balancing the composition. Is that always the case? No, there can be more than just 3 shapes. In fact, in this image, I would say that Nina and the cactus are 2 small shapes with an even smaller shape with Roberto here. This image has 4 shapes. This one has 5, big Ellie, medium Pocoyo, small tree and flowers creating a triangle. So here, a triangle made of big, medium, and small elements. Listen, there's no reason for any of this foliage to be in any of these scenes except to make the composition interesting. Look at this one. Here the composition is a bit imbalanced to the right, but then big, medium, small. And it's a triangle. Even in here, the triangle composition is made of big and medium and small triangles. But there's another thing that you need to know about the big, medium, small rule. And it is that you can make a big shape made of smaller ones. One example is this one right here. Or this one. The group of aliens are in the composition just one big shape. So how can you apply this to your own art? When starting to plan a composition, think like Pocoyo. Start with very few elements that will be the focal point of your piece. Arrange them by size, form a very nice triangle with them, and the rest of the space, which can be negative or not, can be left with little to no detail. Will you find compositions that don't adhere to any of these rules and are still fantastic? Yes, but this is a very simple and effective way to get good compositions without driving yourself crazy. And once you're comfortable with them, you can move on to different tools for your compositions. So negative space, triangles, big, medium, small. You got this. Now, big, medium, small is also a rule that applies when designing characters, especially hair. And if you want to get better at drawing hair, I have the perfect video for you, and you can watch it just right here. So go,